Yes.
Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Entrepreneurial Minds podcast. I'm your host, Vaidehi Tembaker, and today we have two other incredible co-founders with me, Ali Buckland and Gugi Karega, the co-founders of Skizaa. So they are building a data analytics startup that is helping African businesses engage their customers over WhatsApp. And what's interesting about their story is not only are they business partners, but they are also married and life partners. Okay, so welcome to the podcast, Ali and Gugi.
Thank you for having us. Looking forward to it.
Excited to have you. Let's jump right into it then. So for people who don't know who you are, why don't you start by telling us a little bit about yourself? Ali, maybe we can start with you.
Sure. So I am originally from a place called Guernsey, which is a small island in between England and France. I studied in the Netherlands, found myself in India, which happens to be where we met. And then about 3 years ago, we moved to Kenya to live and also to start building this business.
Yeah, interesting. Well, so well, it's always difficult to go after you, but I'm a failed monk. You should know that better. Part of the reason why I'm a failed monk is you. Second one is I spent the past 9 years in India, which is obviously very much part of my life. I've juggled between being an engineer, doing nothing, and now building a startup, which is a lot of things. But yeah, so happy to talk about them throughout today.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. Gugi, I want to go back to one of our first interactions where I told you I was from Mumbai and you started speaking to me in Hindi. And I was like, who is this man speaking better Hindi than I do? So I was taken aback. So tell us a little bit about what you did in India over 9 years.
Well, I think that's a whole new podcast, realistically. I mean, 9 years condensed in a few minutes is crazy. But, so I went to India in 2013. And the goal was to become a revolutionary engineer, which, as you can see, it never happened. But so I studied in Madras back in South India, where I enrolled for a degree in computer engineering. To my surprise, it wasn't what I was hoping to experience.
Sure. So
I ended up dropping out in 2 months. Okay. And then that's where my real Indian journey began. So ended up in Bangalore, long story short, joined a farm. It was a hacker farm called Jagger, trying to code. Obviously wasn't the best. Ended up winning a hackathon, got a job with IBM, worked there, got fired, ended up trying to become a monk, again failed. Cycled from North to South India for about 2 months. Ended up in uni, met Ali, got married, and I'm here.
Wow.
Yeah.
That was a great summary of the 9 years. Okay, so talk a little bit about your experience at IBM.
Yeah.
And also being in a really competitive place like India. What was that like for you?
Dude, I mean, oh my God, I don't even know where to start with that, because so there are few interesting things that happened. So IBM was a big shocker for me. Like, think of it as a really small town dude who has never been exposed to so much responsibility, and all of a sudden, so what happened is after getting a job in IBM, I started building this startup called Source River. So that was my first startup in 2014. And so what I had noticed is when I won the hackathon, genuinely, I was probably the worst engineer. Like, there were people who were building really insane stuff. But why did I win, and how did I end up? So I just pitched better. So realistically, I was a better salesperson than an engineer. And so when I got the job in IBM, I went to one of the guys called Ajit and say, hey, I think there is a better way to hire better engineers who are more qualified to be engineers than me. And so let's build a hackathon management ecosystem where we train kids directly from uni to become engineers. And in this instance, we'll train them on IBM Bluemix, which is what we were like significantly like selling. So Bluemix is like the modern, what we have now, AWS, Microsoft Azure. Yeah, so it's the IBM version. And so they got on board on this idea straight up. Again, I sold it better. I got funding. All of a sudden, money came in, and I didn't know, oh shit, like a lot of money now. I got a team of 8. And so it's like my whole life turned upside down, right? From a real hustler who had no plan with life to a guy now who's living in a big house paid by IBM, getting a BMW to drive him to work every day, getting like a lot of money that I never knew even what to do with it. And sometimes the faster climb comes with a very high, quick downfall. And so anyway, I ended up messing up a lot because generally I had no leadership experience. I had never worked in a corporate space before. I didn't know what I was doing, so I messed up, and I got kicked out. So it was a very short, but I learned a lot, and that experience really has informed who I am today, and it's also informed the success of Skizaa right now.
Sure, that's so interesting. I had no idea. So, very interesting. Okay, and I know you said you were better at selling than all of the other engineers, and you also had this idea of like, hey, I'm better at selling, but am I the most qualified to be in this position? And maybe the company needs to do better at hiring better people.
Yeah.
But so you had the urge to kind of change that and pitch that.
Yeah.
Did entrepreneurship run in your family, or what kind of drove?
Yeah, dude. That? I mean, I think there's this joke that is always thrown around that Kikuyus are good at business, which might partially be true. But I remember the first money I ever made. I was 14 or 15 there at high school, where I used to buy cell phones. I will not tell you where from. I used to buy cell phones from people and sell them in school. But because most of my classmates, we didn't have much money. I went to a school called Changamwe, like deep in Mombasa, right? It's like a proper, hustler nation. So what I realized is no one could easily just raise 3,000 or 4,000 shillings to buy a smartphone.
Right.
So we started a chama, right? I don't know whether you know chama, where now 10 people will come together, contribute like 30 shillings every day, and then they will buy one phone. And then so it will be like a merry-go-round.
Sure.
And so that was my first instance of making money as Ngugi Karega. It went on all the way to building the first movie shop. Back in the days when we used to ban movies. I don't even know whether you've you know that.
Whether I was born
Yeah. So we used to, this was back in 2009.
Okay.
So there's this place called Mikindani in Mombasa, where right at the stage, like in the, when you come in, where everybody's dropped. I got a shop, like a small one, set up a 32-inch TV. I don't know whether they were 32 or what it is. A few speakers and a computer. Downloaded this software called Nero, and I started burning movies. And so what I used to do is I built up a subscription model. I used to tell you about that, where you subscribe for, let's say, $500, and you get like 4 or 5 latest movies a week. So the entrepreneurship has been there, but very informal in nature until it happened in the other space.
That's awesome. That's how it always starts, and it's great that it started at such a young age.
Yeah.
But yeah, really, really cool. Ali, what about you? How was it different for you?
Yeah, so I think our lives and our backgrounds are like very different.
Yeah.
And I think that's obvious as you kind of get to know us and our histories. But so for me, my first job was really in finance and then in consulting, working much more maybe on the other side of things with the impact funders. And so I think I knew I didn't want to do that, and I knew I wanted to do something a little bit, is the word, closer to the ground maybe. And I think also when we met, we knew we wanted to work together from like that moment. We were like, and we had like a business at that time. We were doing like event management in India, running events for the university. So we always knew we wanted to work together. And I knew I never wanted to take a linear path in life. But I don't think I have the same, I mean, we have very different stories. Yeah.
Sure. And like, I feel like Googie is like the operator, the hustler, whereas you're more like the pitcher and like
I bring some order.
Yes, you bring some order. You're the planner. You pitch really well. You know, you put the company out there. How did you separate roles when you came up with Skizaa? Was that difficult, or was it quite obvious that you had different strengths?
So when we started Skizaa, a lot of it also was stemmed from your story and your journey. So we knew that you would take on the role of CEO. That was always really clear. And then, but in terms of role definition, that definitely took time.
Yeah.
In terms of separation of like who does what. Also because in the early games, so the early startup time, everything is all over the place anyway. There's no structure. So everyone is pitching in to do everything. And I would say that, you know, also the demands of the startup are different now than what they were when they started. So like now that we have, for example, like a working product, we can build out the sales function, and that can be a role in and of itself. Whereas like early on, everyone is sort of doing everything.
Yeah, so everyone is wearing multiple hats, and we know how the startup hustle is. Let's just backtrack a little, and maybe we can tell everyone what Skizaa is and what you are currently building today.
Yeah, so Skizaa is, you know, I mean, it's very interesting to talk about Skizaa. Because it has gone through the different metamorphosis stages, right? Like it started as something very different.
Correct.
And what it is right now, I mean, when we started, Skizaa was a facial recognition attendance taking system.
For schools?
For schools.
Okay.
All right, and so the idea is we'll build it for schools, and then it will keep morphing into other, you know, segments. I remember one day I was playing a game with one of the manufacturers, and he was saying that, and he asked me, what do you do? So I'm like, we're building this facial recognition system for attendance. It's like, I can use that for my factory. I'm like, yeah, you can definitely, you know, so we were all over for a while. And when we built it, the idea was, I had a lot of attachment towards building a solution that works in rural Africa and not just the urban spaces, because there are a lot of other players doing that in the urban. But when we built and started testing it, it was in Uganda first. What we realized is that, first of all, the teachers, because it was in education, right? The teachers had very basic smartphones to start with. Two, the classrooms that you want to take the live feed to consume the data and, you know, generate reports on attendance do not have even proper lighting, right? Teachers don't have those cameras. Teachers don't have those. Like, we realized that we had built something that is almost difficult to use, right? And so we had to go back into the drawing board and say, okay, we still want to solve this attendance problem. So how do we do it? And so again, we went back and removed the facial recognition and just built the basic register that you have and made it digital format. But the core function was, how can we make everything run offline? Because internet connectivity is a big issue. And so we started seeing some success from that. We had like 193 schools using that in Uganda, actually, funny enough. but there was no way of making money. How do we make money? Because teachers, we cannot charge the teacher.
So you had 193 schools,
Yeah.
but you weren't monetizing.
No.
So a lot of that was a journey for us in terms of figuring out who can buy that solution.
Right.
Yeah.
And so our early clients were NGOs. So NGOs that are, and they're still our clients today, but in a different way, I would say.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we realized that if we wanted to serve the rural market, and at this time the rural schools, we needed to kind of understand the economics of how things work and who has money in that space. And so we built a solution that adds value for NGOs. We spent a while building a solution that was really around how can organizations who are running programs in different schools or in communities, how can they start collecting data,
Sure.
analyzing that data, and managing it. And we realized there was a really big problem there. Not many people were building for the NGOs space. And then I think that brings
And
us...
I would say that those people who are not building for the NGO space, they knew what they were doing. Because NGO space should not be like your primary market.
Yeah.
Why would you say that?
That's a very interesting question. So, and I'm sure, Ali can contribute on this, but the sales cycles are very long.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's like, especially if you want to make good money, if you want to bring this, the decision makers, you have to jump a couple of hoops. For you to complete a sales cycle for a bigger NGO initially, it was taking us like 3-4 months, right? That's 3-4 months without any revenue.
Right.
Okay, you go to an investor, although I think we're very much focused on less investor-driven business building and more focused on market demand. So you go to an investor and say, oh, you're working for NGOs? And you're working in education? No. And so they disappear. So that is where I would say NGO is a very interesting market,
Sure.
but probably we decided not to make it our primary market.
We decided to, diversify.
Diversify
So
significantly.
that brings us to what are we doing now?
Yeah. So again, what do you think we're doing?
So now what we're really doing is helping African businesses, and that could be SMEs, that could be startups, support with how do you engage customers, but using WhatsApp. So really leveraging the technology that we've built to serve now a different market, because for NGOs, we might have been helping them do beneficiary engagement. And we realized the same tools that enable that allow us also to help, could also help businesses that are working and want to access people that are maybe hard to reach or hard to access.
You know what we realized actually in this process? So when we started building, we've focused a lot on how can we build a technology that is easy to use for people with very limited technology exposure, right? So that was the fundamental was right from the beginning. And then how can we build for people with very limited resources? So a basic smartphone, limited internet connectivity. And so again, it set the fundamental right with regards to the technology that we're building. And so we were able to start collecting like a lot of data. And it's coming in. And then the second cycle of demand now from the NGO customer became how can we do more qualitative data analysis? Because again, it's more conversational data that they collect apart from quantity. So we started building a tool to do qualitative data analysis. And then sitting at Antler, we all see it, we started talking. We were pitching to Kosen. I hope, Kosen, you're watching this. And you know how much you've influenced this decision making. But we were talking to our friend Kosen. And we keep trying to pitch. Every day is a pitching experience, right? And so we're pitching and it's like, yeah, but this NGO thing is still not very VC backable. So we started diversifying. I think it helped us to start thinking outside the box. And then ultimately one day Ali and I were sitting down and we were like, we have to pivot. Which other segments can really benefit from this? And so we started talking to businesses and we realized that one of their biggest challenge is that they are collecting a lot of customer feedback, but analyzing those conversations is such a pain because everything is still happening on Excel and spreadsheets.
Right.
And so probably you need a BI person to do the work and it takes a minimum of 10 days to analyze. So that became a pain point that we identified. But secondly, if you really even planning to talk to customers that are in the last mile region, how do you really engage them? And so bringing a lot of experience and expertise from that place, we realized, oh, this is our space. So we embedded WhatsApp because we realized now 98% of internet users in Kenya are on WhatsApp, right? So why don't we hit that? And so we started engaging people directly on WhatsApp and collecting data via WhatsApp. And so that has become a demand now in a space where businesses are looking at how can we do customer engagement directly on WhatsApp. So that's what we're doing. So we enable you to customize your engagement, collect feedback, do product updates, and then we analyze that data to give you net promoter score, sentimental analysis, and define decision making for businesses. Yeah.
And how long did it take you to get to this stage?
So yeah, we've been building for 3 years.
Yeah.
And what is the word? Roller coaster?
Yeah.
Maybe?
Roller coaster indeed.
So like, yeah, I mean, I can't even summarize. I mean, it's the craziest journey, and you'll be taken on like multiple loops and rounds, and you'll be trying to, 3 years.
3 years.
3 years, yeah.
Really long time. And do you feel like now you've got into a place where you're able to actually monetize much faster because your customer segment has changed? And how are you making money today?
Yeah, so for us, we're a SaaS business, we're a subscription business, and that is the same for all of our customer segments. And so I'm thinking about this as like a sales funnel. And so NGOs still make up, and we're still making money from that segment today. And we're going to continue kind of targeting them from an outbound marketing perspective, and going after those kinds of clients. And now for us, it's around, okay, if that's one segment of our funnel, what are the kind of other segments that we want to target and prioritize first? Is it startups, is it SMEs, and how do we reach them in a way that doesn't kind of change our focus?
Sure.
The good thing is the product is the same. The
Product remains the same every day.
And even the roadmap for the product remains the same.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's
No,
how
but
we're thinking about
what's
it.
more interesting is like, once we dive, I think sometimes when you're genuinely like trying to make things work, you can get into a rabbit hole.
Correct.
Right? And you really not able to see even the other opportunities that are available in the current customer segment that you're serving. And so right now, with just the NGO market, we're able to unlock or improve the customer lifetime value by just a few add-ons that we're bringing on board. So one of the things that Ali has a lot of expertise on is impact evaluation. And so right now we're building like templates, a theory of change templates that are helping our existing NGO markets measure and monitor their impact and report on that. We were not thinking about that initially, and it's so funny, right? Like, you are also creating a course we have this partner called Open Campus. My God, OCX is just lovely. So we are creating an impact measurement and evaluation course with them on how businesses, and in this case, impact-focused businesses, can be able to learn how to use Skizaa to do their M&E, but also report on their impact. And so Ali is doing all of that now. But now on the other segments, it's like a whole new world has opened up, right? So we have these FMCGs that have been trying for so hard and for so long to collect accurate, verifiable data efficiently. And we have a lot of players in the market, but are they really like capturing the actual essence of user engagement conversations? Sure. And so now with our WhatsApp reach, we are able to hit more than 10 million, across the country, just on WhatsApp, and make that data accessible, right? And so that has opened the FMCG market, has opened the startups like yours that want to have an engagement with their businesses. So our SaaS model, as Ali would say it, has grown into different revenue generating funnels, and we're very happy to to make some money finally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great. And I think you mentioned a couple of different things, but I want to touch a little bit on the element of focus, right? I think as a founder, sometimes focus is really important, and it's important to know when to stop.
Yeah.
Learning to stop.
Yeah.
How do you effectively do that? Like, how do you know when to stop building more for NGOs and really focus on the new market that you've opened up? Or is it that you continue building quite heavily on NGOs and have a new team that is focused on the new market segment that you're opening up? How do you navigate the complexity of that?
Dude.
I would say one of the biggest things, so we're 3 co-founders. So our CTO is based out of India, Shoji, he's amazing.
Cool dude, best dude in the planet, genuinely.
And one of the best things, I think one of the biggest things for us as a team of 3 is like accountability to each other. So like, you know, for example, Gugi might have this crazy idea that he wants to implement tomorrow, and then Shoji can be like, no.
I can't. Yeah.
Or like, you know, you guys can say we need to be targeting all of these market segments, and then it's like, okay, I can come in and be like, yes, in which order? What's the priority, right? So I think having that accountability amongst the 3 of us really helps with that element of first, like, focus and like knowing your limits as a team. And there's a fine line, right? There's a line of like, you have to still engage in new ideas and innovation and kind of encourage it, because as a startup, you have to always be thinking like that. But then at the same time, there has to be that balance in the team to be like, okay, but what can we achieve tomorrow, right? So I think that team accountability piece.
But also, I mean, it's very interesting because it's always, and I think it's always good to have diversity in the team.
Yeah.
Because the way Ali thinks, let's say, as an intellectual, an individual, and as a female founder, it's very different from the way I'll approach things. But coming from a less prescriptive perspective, I think every startup journey is very different.
Yeah.
Like, and so when we started, we had this friend of ours called Rahul Upal. He started this crazy startup called Woohoo. And he's the first guy who put in the money. And he gave us a lot of advice that we couldn't use most of it, because you can only apply that advice based on experience. And so you asked a very important question, like focus, right? So we have some startups are focusing on product market fit, some are focusing on revenue maximizing, some are focusing on like different things that you're focusing on. And so for us, we wanted to really focus on figuring out how to maximize revenue. Given that we are really significantly like operating on a shoestring budget, given the current fundraising market, and the way things are, and obviously having worked in the NGO market for a while, which is probably the most unpalatable, less sexy for the investors. So now bring it back, focus, right? I think there are a few things that I've realized are very important for us. One, even if you're focusing, don't stop what you're doing. So when we were building the product, we didn't stop building the product. We kept improving the product and looked at how can whatever we've built really work in different segments. And that did not destabilize our even the technical team, because you have to understand that engineers are very so possessive about every piece of code they write. And if you wake up and say we're going to a whole new business now, it's like they will look at you and think you're not the right kind of leader for us to work under, because you don't have the direction. Right? So you have to think about, especially the engineering team, the guys that are working every day on the product. It's really difficult to change that. And so having really personally understood that, and having a CTO that really shapes that trajectory for us, we realize that we cannot change that, but we have to look at if what is important for us is the money, the problem then is not the product. The problem is how are we communicating? And so that's when Ali took the sales position and say, I'm going to be the head of sales and streamline everything. So when we say streamline, is like, think of Ali as the operating system, right? So she sets up everything and puts up the structure and the infra to make things happen. And so when there's a result on that, when you start seeing, oh shit,
things are working,
we are converting, we are selling, oh, okay, then you can follow the leader, right? You start following the leadership. And so that has really, really helped in terms of Skizaa. So the focus is less the product and more on the customer side and the money.
I think that's a really good point. Like, to know, sometimes it's not the product that's an issue, it's maybe the target that you're going after could be something completely different, and you can repurpose your product. Of course, there's, on the contrary, the product might need to completely be changed. They can be, it's different for every startup. But you mentioned your CTO is in India, and you have a tech team of how many people? 8 people, all in India.
All in India.
You're sitting in Kenya, you're operating in Kenya. I believe most of your customers are in Kenya as well, right? How do you successfully lead a team that is not in the same country as you? I know both of you have lived in India, so I think that's an advantage. But is it still complex kind of running with that setup, essentially?
I don't know, Ali, you can start on that.
So I think you're right. Because we lived in India, there's some cultural context that maybe we have that I think helps a lot in terms of how we communicate with the team and how we build relationships. I think Shoji is massively instrumental, obviously, because he's sitting in India and he is the leadership for the team as well, that they can see and interact with and know. But yeah, I mean, it does help that you speak Hindi, because sometimes you'll be having a conversation that will be having a really big problem, and they just need to talk in Hindi maybe. And we're not, I mean, for me, maybe I'm a little bit out of the loop, but at least I understand a little. But yeah, I think that helps. I think with remote working, there's always challenges sometimes. Like, we did something interesting that was recommended to us, which I think might not work for everyone, but we were trialing like asynchronous working. So what if for like an hour or so, one day a week, the whole team is on Zoom or whatever, on mute, working
together,
everyone, and then you can just, if you have a question, as though you were in an office, you turn off and then you are able to ask. And that was an interesting thing for you, because you realized that you were a blocker for some of the things that the team were dealing with. So like, I think experiments like that can really help, but it's a learning process.
Now, there's actually one more thing to add on top of what Ali is saying. I have learned so much about a team. So a team isn't just about, oh, we need a back-end engineer, or let's hire a back-end engineer. I mean, so at Skizaa, we've gone through ups and downs, significant. And I'll just take you back, because there's a proper history to this. So when we started, we built a team in India first when we were physically there. That time we had just raised a bit of money, I think about 50,000 or something like that. So we got a fancy office at WeWork, 8-seater, well, 6-seater or 8-seater, 8-seater, We hired engineers, we started building this product, and so, you know, like when you're just really stupid, like you know, when you're just directionless, and you're just, you know, taken away by the idea of product. Like, I just want to release a product. And you focus on the product, and so all the other things, you're not really focusing on them, like team cohesion, understanding who fits in your team and why are they there, and especially understanding their why and your why and why it matches. It's really key. So anyway, in 2022, 2022, we ended up building a product, and then Ali and I flew in the country on May 24th. And I think May 28th, the entire team quit. The whole team.
All your engineers in India.
Everybody, dude, like everybody.
This is before Shoji.
Before Shoji, before our current CTO, right?
Okay.
Everybody quit.
And this is, you had flown to India to set up a team.
So we were living,
We were living there.
Living in India.
We were living in India
Okay.
then.
and then we had moved here to start.
To start the sales
Okay,
process.
okay.
Right? And so imagine
And we lost everything. We
you
lost
have a 1 year
the
setback.
code, we lost the whole product.
Everything, the code, the designs, everything is gone. And obviously, like, it's
And this is after how many months of
this is
starting
like
to build?
9 months.
9 months
Oh,
of
wow.
building. Okay?
Or maybe less.
No, it's
6
actually
to 9.
because, see,
Yeah, it was 9, yeah.
Yeah, there's a
6.
lot. There's a lot. Like before you hire an engineer and start building, there's that process we go. There's
Sure.
the building is not just the code, but even the investor relationships that we had built. And so, imagine losing everything and starting from scratch. But I remember sitting down and figuring out, what did I do wrong?
Yeah.
Like, why would everyone quit? And so I had a personal, like a lot of introspection as what does leadership mean? What does it mean to build a team?
Sure.
What does it mean to have the people be a part of this big dream, right? And I learned how wrong I was to the guys that had employed them because one, like there was no transparency, there was no clarity, there was no proper direction. It was so haphazard, right? And so that experience significantly humbled me as a human being and as like a CEO of a company. And so it flipped my position from sitting here to actually sitting at the bottom. Right? So my communication is it's not top down,
Sure.
is bottom up and not the political bottom up. Right? So anyway, that changed a lot. So when we brought in Shoji, so when we started again, now coming back to your question of what does it mean to really, how are we managing a team?
Yeah.
So Shoji coming in first, he's like this really intelligent IIT grad.
Sure.
He hates it when we say that. Okay, but he's like really smart dude. And then we have another engineering team. So what he did is he handpicked the guys he went to school with, but not IIT Wala, from primary school.
Right.
So his friends in the village, put them together. Some of them are not even engineers. He trained them, right? And so they became the part of the team from the beginning. So even some of them, the product that they have built right now, it is their first product, right? So we built a certain level of cohesion as a team, a certain layer of understanding that currently we are a struggling startup. But if we succeed together.
Sure.
So we distribute ESOPs. So every engineer is a shareholder in the company. Right?
But I think, like, more important than all of that stuff, I think the biggest lesson, and I think you touched on it, was transparency.
Yeah.
Just like being really open about where we are, what we're doing, and yeah, I think that transparency piece is like the biggest thing that helps with the team and how we manage the team.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think having a leader that is also based there is really good to set
Yeah.
culture in that local, area that you have your team working out of, or just like that more closeness that you have is probably an added advantage as well.
100%. Yeah.
Wow, interesting. And just moving away a little bit from that, how long did it take you to make your first shilling or first dollar after starting your entrepreneurial journey with Skizaa?
So after the team quit, then we started building again from scratch 6 months after that.
6 months after that.
Yeah.
Okay.
But then, so the first client took that long, and then the second client took another 3 months, 4 months after that.
Yeah.
And then, like, a massive break. We didn't really have any clients for ages.
Almost 8 months.
Wow.
And now we're really, like, now we feel like the product is in a really good place and the sales are moving much quicker. The conversion rate is moving.
The conversion rate is, we almost have 5 client calls every day.
That's amazing.
We have crazy conversion rates right now. But it took, so the first client was also like a big lesson for us.
Yeah.
If you're a founder and you're listening to this, never sell with Figma files without setting the right expectations. Okay?
Yeah.
So because the product is very revolutionary with regards to data collection in hard-to-reach areas. But the thing is, we were not very transparent also with the customer that it's going to take a lot of time to build this.
Yeah.
And also, we pitched it as the perfect product.
Of course.
We were not clear about the bugs and all that. And we didn't have a strategy of even customer engagement, customer success, keeping the customer in the loop we didn't have all that. And so that's why this thing happened. The customer became disappointed.
Sure.
It affected our ability to sell to any other customer because we lost confidence.
Yeah.
Right? So then one of our advisors called John Campbell, a very good fellow, one of the best guys we have in the team, he sat us and said, guys, you need, because John Campbell also came as a customer. So he runs a school. He's an advisor, but he says, because I'm your advisor, I'm going to put my money where my mouth is. Is that the phrase?
Yeah.
Okay. So he decided to buy for his school. But then he says, I'm going to wear different hats and give you candid feedback and say, I am disappointed as a customer because you don't engage me enough. You don't tell me where the pitfalls are, what to expect, and I'm actually just in the dark with everything that is going on, right? And so that was the reason for the big gap. But now, if there's one thing that you have invested a lot of time is the sales. So sales is not just selling, but the customer success.
It's the post-sales and the customer service, the whole thing.
Yeah.
And I think as founders, we're always like, hey, we need the client, right?
Yes.
So we sell them this dream.
Oh my God. Yes.
And then we don't set the right expectations.
Yes.
And I think what's really important sometimes is just setting those expectations in the first place.
Yeah.
We're a little scared because we're not going to sign the client, right?
Yeah.
But I think clients appreciate that. And they want the communication.
Yes.
If you're not ready, it's just telling them, hey, this feature is not ready.
Exactly.
But best case should be ready in a week or 2 weeks. Is that okay?
Yeah.
And that makes a world of a difference.
Yeah.
As opposed to just blindsiding them.
Yeah. Very true.
Yeah, I think we've learned the hard way as well on that one. So I can relate.
Yeah.
But going into maybe your fundraising journey a little bit, you said you've raised a little bit of angel capital. Were you bootstrapped before then, and then did you raise after, or did you raise your money and then start building? Just walk us a little bit.
You should tell the story of how you used to work 3 jobs to fund the product.
I mean, it was very much like trying to pull money from different sources to try and cover this. So there was a time, not for so long, but for a few months.
For 6 months.
6 months?
Yeah.
I was working, 3 jobs being 2 jobs and Skizaa.
Wow.
So that was quite crazy.
Now there's
tell us a little bit more about
Ali is trying to so the stories. So first, there was a time Ali was working 2 jobs. One, the impact one, and the bar one. So you'll do the bar job. You had 4 jobs, yeah. So she'll work bar shifts back at home, get the money. And then she will do, you'll have your day job. Yeah. And then you'll have the other, she had 4 jobs and trying to pull the money
to build Skizaa.
So bootstrapping, I think Ali is potentially the reason why we were able to build Skizaa very early on, have that stability, because now it meant I cannot work.
Right.
I can be able to focus on setting up the structure. So I'm building with a team, and Ali is working 18 hours a day, right? So, and on top of that, she's working on Skizaa.
Of course.
Right? So,
I don't know whether I'd recommend that for the long term.
Yeah.
I mean, I think there got to a point where I got burnt out.
Yeah.
And then
significantly.
and I couldn't do all of that. That's just ridiculous.
Yeah.
So that I wouldn't necessarily recommend that, but I do think it did help having income.
It did
of
help
Yeah,
having income.
yeah.
Yeah.
And it
yeah.
probably helped then raise some more capital because you weren't raising for nothing
Yeah,
at that point.
yeah.
You had
True.
already gotten to a certain point,
Yeah.
and then you had something to show
Yeah.
people.
Yeah, and actually, one of the things that gave me confidence about building this is that part where Ali really went all in and said, "Why don't you focus on this?" And I focus on finding the money.
Yeah.
Right, so let's play to our strengths.
Sure.
So she will work. You used to work in the pub
Yeah.
from 5 p.m. to 11.
Yeah.
Right? You see that? If someone is going all the way in on that front, you have
You're
to go
accountable as
you're
well,
accountable
yes.
as well, right? So I think for that the fundamentals were right. The fundamentals were right from the beginning, and I think that's why we've survived all different types of storms and deaths.
Yeah.
We've died a million times. Yeah. So yeah.
I can imagine. Okay, so let's switch gears a little bit. And I've come from a family as well where my dad started his business back in 2006
Yeah.
from a bedroom in our apartment as well, right? And there was a point where me, my mom, my brother, my dad, everyone worked in our family business. We had graduated, we came back. And what we often found is we would come back home and at the dinner table, we were just talking about work.
Yeah.
Right? It was always work. It was always the business. It was always problem solving. So it was just firefighting, actually.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
these type of discussions every single day. At some point, we were like, hey, we need to switch off. When we're having dinner, no more work talk, because when do you then get the time to really just wind down and switch off and come back, reset the next day? Do you feel that as a married couple that are also co-founders of Skizaa, working together all day? How do you balance that? Do you feel like you're always talking about work?
Yeah, it's definitely been a learning journey.
Yeah.
I think probably similar challenges, right, in the early days of okay, how do we actually switch off? What are the boundaries? In the office, for example, we're not married. It's how we think about it. We turn off completely when we're in the office setting. And then at home, inevitably you talk about work, but we do try and create some boundaries or some rules.
Sure.
Or if someone says, I can't do work right now, you then have to step back and respect it. So yeah, the boundaries definitely they were hard to
They
set
took
up
time.
initially.
Yeah, did it take time?
Took time.
Took over 2 years.
For sure.
Yeah.
But it did enable us to do some things that I think are really helpful for our business. For example, conflict resolution is something that as a married couple, or how we deal with conflict, it came up maybe quicker than it would have done if we weren't married, as founders.
Sure.
So it made us think about things that maybe we wouldn't have thought about early on if we weren't married.
Sure.
And I think we've put now better structures in place
Yeah.
that help us deal with things in a very amicable, in a very easy way. That I think we set up really early on.
Yeah.
Because of that.
There's these guys, Renew Capital.
Yeah.
You know them?
Yes, I know Renew Capital.
The couple founders. And there's one day he said something that I realized, oh shit, that's so true. He's like, you can't bullshit. Right? Because
they're also context, the founders of Renew Capital are also married.
Okay.
Married, they're married.
Okay.
Yeah, so he was saying, as a married co-founders, you can't really bullshit. There is no lies.
Yeah.
There's no
Yeah.
lies. And I think it took us a lot of time to develop respect. I mean, it takes a lot of time to develop respect, to empathize and think differently and draw the boundary. I still don't have boundaries myself. I'll still wake up I have a product idea. Right? Like, you know, I have a product idea. And she was like, dude.
Not now. Go to sleep.
You know, so we still have those moments, right? But I think it's really difficult, generally, especially if you are co-founders who are married and going through a difficult financial time. When the business is,
Sure.
so, you know,
Yes.
when a business is down, it means both of you are sinking,
Yeah.
right? And I have to tell you, these, obviously, again, if you're watching, be very close with your family. Like, I mean, for us, if it wasn't for family, we would have never made it.
Yeah.
Genuinely.
Yeah, true.
Genuinely, like, shout out to family if you're watching this. We would have never, ever made it without family. Like, my mom will come and say, I'm going to spend time just cooking for you guys. You focus on business. Never worry about cleaning. Never worry about anything. I'm going to stay with you for a while. Focus on business. Her parents will come in and say, guys, what do you need? Do you need any funding? Do you need any financials? Do you need to pay rent?
Sure.
Do you have food? Okay, do you have money to go to work? Oh, no, and they will send in money, right? So, like, that family support is key. Yeah.
So has that ever happened to you where you've had to ask your family for money, for rent or living just because you've run out of money whilst building the startup?
Yeah, I think we definitely have leveraged our network of both family and friends to make
A lot.
to make a lot of things happen.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Was that hard?
very.
No, but
Yeah, it was hard.
So, for some of my friends, it wasn't hard, but it reaches a point where you feel like, shit, I should be adulting. Like, I should have my shit together. You know?
No, I think
for me, not for you.
Yeah, like I think also
You know?
there's like an element of culture as well. Like, for example, I don't think at home it's necessarily culturally acceptable to even talk about money or business.
Right.
And so sometimes like broaching some of those conversations are like difficult just because of that. Whereas I feel like here, business is an acceptable topic. Like you can talk about work or you can talk about money in a way that maybe.
But we've never borrowed money from anyone here. In fact, there's one
No,
friend
no,
of-
no. But I'm just saying in
This is the
general,
part
yeah.
where we disagree.
Yeah.
I don't think, in fact, for me, there's this friend of mine called Dave Singh. And I think it's the cultural difference. So Dave is the kind of guy that when I have money, he has access to my card.
Sure.
Right? And he can go and use it. And when I'm stuck, I'm like, so Dave, how much do you have in your card? I need to use it right now. And is that so? And then for you, is like, so Ali comes from a place where money is not a conversation that
Yeah.
you have. So people never get broke in their country. In my country, we get broke. so there's a, you should say it.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just different. I think like, and this is like the other element of our relationship, maybe that is interesting, is like the cultures.
Yeah.
As a married couple, but also as three co-founders from three different countries, like culturally, there's a lot of things that are different. So.
And does that add to the complexity or does it?
It adds value.
It adds value.
Yeah.
It adds to the complexity as well. It's a,
But like, yeah, it, obviously, but like, I do think it's valuable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Amazing. Okay, well, I think it's time to wrap this up now. So maybe we can just have one last question. Tell us what's next for Skizaa.
this is where you're going.
Sales.
This is where you sell the dream.
Yeah, so for now, the next thing is we just want more people using it. We want to get more customers. We want to get more feedback. We want to, keep growing. But yeah, so if anyone is kind of curious to learn more about what we're doing, definitely follow our LinkedIns because we do a lot of building in public.
Yes.
And so if you want to learn more about what we're doing or if you think it's interesting, we'd love to pilot and see how that goes.
Now, I think also like technological, in the technical aspect, I was just chatting this with Ali yesterday and I was saying, do you think we'll get to a point where the way we have iOS, the way we have Android, WhatsApp will become an operating system of its own, right? I mean, and so I was saying, for us, one of the things that we really want to push on is mastering the art of data collection via WhatsApp and conversational engagement.
Sure.
And so we are really pushing on WhatsApp a lot. We have our friends on Skizaa who are doing, check out Skizaa. They're doing very well on WhatsApp, e-commerce. And so looking at players like that are doing really well, and looking at how can we, share knowledge and ideas towards building in this space. So for us, it's a lot more on WhatsApp and a lot more analysis of the data. Yeah.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for your time, Ali and Gugi. This was super interesting. Learning about everything, all the ups and downs, both with Skizaa and, personally, I think as founders, it's definitely not an easy journey. And I appreciate you sharing as much as you can with everyone. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
And by the way, if you're an investor out there looking to invest in the next big billion-dollar idea, we're actually fundraising right now. We're doing a very small pre-seed round of 250,000K. We have 100K already committed. We're looking for the next guy to come on board. Excited for you. Have crazy numbers, crazy technology. The team is solid. And on top of that, as you can already see, we are the future.
Hi, I'm Vaidehi, the host of the Entrepreneurial Minds podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in. You can follow us on Instagram at entrepreneurial.minds.podcast and subscribe to our channel on YouTube, the Entrepreneurial Minds podcast. Thank you. Enjoy.